Hey y'all, and welcome to Politabrawl. My name is Brian, and Madeleine Dean tries her best to get one up on Kash Patel, but he ends her career in just a few short sentences in front of all of Congress. Let's dive in.
I am gravely concerned about the utter lack of independence of the FBI and its weaponization under your leadership. I am concerned that the president is using this book, your book, as a blueprint, as he has said. It's a blueprint for revenge. And I am concerned that your eagerness, a childlike giddiness to carry out the president's revenge tour, you've shown yourself to be unserious in your statements before you were sworn in and some after. You've shown yourself unfit to lead this important agency. I was an impeachment manager for President Trump's second impeachment. It was a sad, solemn duty. And so I wanted to ask you about that. Mr. Patel, as you and the president continue to weaponize and investigate his perceived enemies, as you follow this blueprint, when can I, a former impeachment manager, expect the FBI at my door?
Ma'am, you want to know who was targeted by a weaponized FBI? Me. You want to know how and why?
Well,
you want to know what I'm doing to fix it?
That. Let me move on.
Well, you should read the
topics.
book because there's no enemies list on that book.
So
there are people that violated their constitutional obligations and their duties to the American people,
That's good.
and they were rightly called out.
I'm
And
changing
you should
topics.
give that book to every one of your constituents so they can read about it.
I won't be doing that.
That's their loss.
During your Senate confirmation hearings, you repeatedly denied having any involvement as a private citizen in the firing of FBI officials who engaged in the prosecution against January 6 insurrectionists, the violent rioters who beat and killed Capitol police officers, and whom you referred to as political prisoners. Since then, multiple whistleblowers have come forward, and we know that you likely committed perjury. At the same hearing, you claimed you were not familiar with Stu Peters, an anti-Semitic Holocaust denier, despite the fact that you appeared on Mr. Peters' podcast 8 separate times. 8 times. And you claimed not to recall. Mr. Patel, my second question is, should we worry more about your memory or your veracity?
We should worry more about your lack of candor. You're accusing me of committing perjury. Tell the American people how I broke the law and committed a felony. Have the audacity to actually put the facts forward instead of lying for political banter so you can have a 20-second donation hit.
The answer is both. I believe that
the answer is you're failing, not me.
I will play my time.
Go ahead.
Mr. Patel, I believe that the members of the FBI, and I know many of them, many retired, 38,000 people, as you say, it's a little less than that now, deserve the very best, deserve extraordinary independence, deserve freedom from the fears of being investigated, the freedom of coming forward to make sure they're doing their job. And I'll end with this, that I think it's interesting that in your proposal today, you find yourself at a gulf of difference between you and the president. I wonder how you will resolve that. Will you go to the president and say we need $11.2 billion, not what you cut out of here? You're asking for more than $1 billion than the president's request. Are you going to go to the president and straighten out that gulf?
I'll do what I've always done and represent the American people, defend this country, and make sure the Constitution is always upheld and the FBI is never weaponized. Maybe you should do the same.
So you agree with the president when he says he doesn't know if he should uphold his constitutional duty?
If you want to just keep putting words in my mouth, the TV cameras are outside.
I thank you. I yield back. Again, this is an unserious moment, sadly, for the FBI. I yield back.
More so for you.
Wow. I don't think I've ever seen someone come out swinging as hard as Kash Patel did right here. And Madeleine Dean had no idea how to counter this. She was not prepared at all. I guess that's sort of a running theme here for Democrats, just being wholly and woefully unprepared for what they actually need to do. Just look at anyone in the past 4 years being nominated under the Biden administration. And now under the Trump administration, it seems like people actually know what they're doing. But if there's a gulf of difference between what Kash Patel wants for the FBI and what Trump is initially proposing, I guess we should just, call that the Gulf of America here. Because that gulf of difference is really saying that, hey, we need to change the way the FBI does things here and there. We have to put up new sites across the country in places that desperately need it. We need it more close to the center of the country itself. After all, the whole point of the FBI is to make sure that they're tracking crime that crosses state lines. That's kind of their number one thing here. But under the last 4 years, the FBI was used as a weaponized arm of the Democrat Party, their agenda, and what they've wanted to do to the United States. They tried to sic the FBI under the Biden administration. Merrick Garland quite literally told the FBI, go to Mar-a-Lago, do as much damage as you can. Then arrest as many parents that were having massive problems once they figured out what was actually in their school's curriculums and their school libraries. Sorry, curricula, I believe is the correct term here. I had a couple of years of Latin and none of it took. And then the FBI would also target Catholic Christians, okay, because they believed that abortion was wrong. That means that the FBI went after a former president, as in like what they would do in a banana republic. All right, we talked about locking up Hillary Clinton. The reality is we want her to lose. We didn't want her in jail. I know many of y'all do, and I don't fully blame you, but that's what separates us from a banana republic. And on the other hand, Madeleine Dean is thinking that, hey, maybe we need to lock a sitting FBI director up for alleged perjury. Honey, if you have the guts to do that, then you needed to do that time and time again to Mayorkas and Merrick Garland. I'm sorry, you don't have a leg to stand on here. Why don't you try to stand on something else? Because in the meantime, Kash Patel is looking at your so-called enemies list. The reality is that is a list of people that quite literally looked at the American people, saw them as a bunch of cattle, and decided to brand people with one brand and herd them into a pen over here, brand them with another, and then send them out to pasture there. That's not fair to the American people. That is not morally correct. That's not a wise decision. That, in fact, breaks the very foundations of democracy apart. Because the only thing that holds up democracy is that your faith that the people that are actually in charge are doing at least mildly decent things and aren't screwing everything up, and just as importantly, aren't throwing you in jail for protesting the very system. Madeleine Dean here, or Madeleine, I honestly don't care which one, I don't care how to pronounce it here, is trying to get a 20-second soundbite. That's the whole point and purpose of this, because she was on the committee to impeach Donald Trump. She took that very seriously. No one in their right mind took that impeachment seriously. The only people that cared about it were the radicals in the Democrat Party. They cared more about getting Trump than actually upholding the laws. If they cared about that in any sense of the word, there would have been impeachments left and right over the past 4 years. But they don't care. They don't care about that. This has been party politics for impeachment ever since Bill Clinton lied in front of Congress and didn't get a single bit of pushback from the Congress at the time. That man, by definition, should have been impeached. That would have been a standard mark that I think the rest of Americans could have actually gotten behind. But no, the Democrats said no then, they're saying no now, and now they're trying to twist everything back around and throw it back in Kash Patel's face. Good luck. This man brought the receipts. He was ready for this hearing. And Ms. Dean here, she probably needs Jimmy Dean in the morning, because if she did, she might be a little bit more focused. She might have had a much better line of argument, because if this is the best she's got, oh, the Democrats are in deep, deep trouble. And they know they're in trouble. All right, the American people are mad at them because they've allowed not only an FBI to go rogue, but a Department of Homeland Security to just stand at the gates. Don't, raise the gates or lower them. Don't actually do anything. Just let people crawl over the walls. Let's deal with that problem later. But under Merrick Garland and Alejandro Mayorkas, the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security were weaponized either against the American people or they were just asleep at the wheel. Either way, a crash ended up occurring, and that crash happened in 2024 when the American people finally said, enough! Enough with this nonsense. And that's what she's spewing here, because that's all she knows. That's what all her constituency knows. And you know what? I feel bad for her constituents. I feel bad for the people that thought it was a good idea to put her in office because they have either bought into a pernicious case of just untruths and malfeasance being spewed forth as reality and as truth, and instead have embraced what is essentially a lie. The difference between a lie and a half-truth is a liar knows the truth, but people who tell half-truths have forgotten where they put it. And her whole tirade here is full of nothing but half-truths, nothing but conjecture, and meanwhile, Kash Patel is out here basically saying, honey, where have you been for the last 4 years? What you're saying is unsubstantial, and you're trying to get money from your own constituents to make sure that they know back home that she's fighting against the Trump administration, when it says she needs to be fighting for the American people and fighting for the ideas of truths, and not to mention the ideas of our rights to life, liberty, property, and just as importantly, the pursuit of happiness. That did not happen under the Biden administration, and she is now claiming that this is just an unserious FBI. Ma'am, this might be the most serious FBI that we've had in decades, all because we've recognized that there is a problem. And now we have people that are actually fixing the problem, and the Democrats are saying, they're unserious. I'm sorry. At this point, no one in their right mind should buy anything that this woman is selling, because if that's the case, then I've got some oceanfront property in Arizona, and I'll throw in the Golden Gate for free. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. And until then, y'all have a good one.